And now is the time in our service where we go into our time of meditation together. So I invite you now to just gently close your eyes or find a spot on the floor to just focus your gaze. Just allowing your body to relax. Just allowing the breath to flow naturally without any kind of force or any kind of thought in controlling it, just allowing it to flow. And as we allow the breath to flow, we acknowledge a realization. A realization that God is my source. That God is indeed my power. And that the God within is indeed everything I need. I invite you now to go within to that heart space. That heart space within where God resides. That heart space where the God within provides us with all of the power, all of the strength, and everything that we need. And as we continue to go within, I invite you to begin to open your mind and your consciousness. Perhaps asking the God within, how can I be love in the world? How can I be peace in the world? What is it that is mine to do? What is the next step of my spiritual journey? And as we prepare to move into our moment of silence, I invite you to continue to ask these questions, or whatever question is on your heart at this time, and to just remain open and to remain willing and to opening yourself to listen and to receive the answers that may come as we enter into the silence. And as we begin to bring our awareness and our focus back to this time and this place, we affirm that the answers are never something that we need seek outside of ourselves. Every answer to every question we have is within. We affirm today our willingness. We affirm our openness. And we listen. And we breathe and we acknowledge this to be true. And so it is. Namaste. And now I invite you to continue to affirm. And let's hear it again for our Unity Jazz Band, Steve, Sherry, and Pete. So I kind of wish we had streamed the 9:15 service, because I was telling people about the Star Trek mask that I've ordered. And some of the people in the congregation were doing the Sherry even practiced it till she got it. So Sherry is now officially a Trekkie. I see Carol. I know we have several out there. Trekkies unite. All right, yeah. Makes me feel a little bit better about myself knowing that I'm not the only one. And Martin back there too, yeah. So I'd like to start off by saying Happy Father's Day, everybody. I'm happy that we're able to, at least some of us, meet in person today. But I'd like to start by asking our fathers to stand. Doesn't matter whether you're a biological father, a stepfather, the father of a fur child, please stand so that we can honor you. And just all men stand. Because I know at some point you have been a mentor to somebody in your life, and it's important that you are acknowledged for that. And I'd like to ask everybody to join me as we bless these wonderful men in our congregation today. Men of Unity, we love you, we bless you, we appreciate you, and we behold the Christ you are. Thank you. And our men out there that are streaming with us today, we honor and bless you as well. And we're so happy to have you tuning in with us on this Father's Day today. So I'd like to start out with a quote by bishop, author, and filmmaker T.D. Jakes. He said, "I want to congratulate all the men out there who are working diligently to be good fathers, whether stepfathers or biological fathers or just spiritual fathers." And we'll add in or fur children fathers. But I love good quotes. I mean, I think a lot of us that are, walking the spiritual journey tend to like good quotes. I like to use them when I prepare my talks, use them when I'm writing. I just love a good quote. And they really come in handy today, especially on certain days today like Father's Day. And fathers are pretty good at giving quotes, aren't they? Sometimes the information they contain is requested. It's solicited advice. Sometimes it's unsolicited. But regardless, I've found that fathers love to give advice, and it's often in the form of quotes. So today I want to start with some of the infamous words of my own father. I joke, and I've always told him that I'm going to have one day engraved on his tombstone, "Take your time. There's no need to be in a hurry." Now, when I was younger, I used to find this advice really annoying when I was in my teens and my 20s. But now I catch myself saying the same thing. Recently, when Mindy and I were preparing our trip to head back to Texas, I was texting back and forth with my mother because she was wanting to know what time we were going to arrive and things like that. And I texted, "We're just going to take our time. We're not in any hurry." And I right after I sent that, I looked down and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I have become my father." And I told my mother, I texted that to my mother, and she just laughed and she said, "You are your father's child." So it's just kind of a big joke in my family. But as time has moved on, I've started to realize that it is truly good advice. And it can really be applied to just about anything. Even progress that we're making along our spiritual journey. Even living in faith. Now, in his book, Dynamics for Living, Charles Fillmore stated, "Faith is the foundation of all. Faith is the foundation of all that we do." And probably most of us understand a little bit about how the foundations of homes and other buildings work, right? They uphold sometimes this enormous amount of weight. From small businesses to these large skyscrapers, the foundation must do its job so it can uphold whatever it is it's supporting. But it can take time to make a foundation really strong, right? It's got to be the right size. It's probably got to be smooth in places, maybe not as smooth in other places. And then it's got to be maintained. Cracks might have to be repaired. And I don't know about here in Wisconsin, but in Texas, your foundation's a big deal because the ground gets so dry and they'll start to crack. So they have to be well maintained. Now, our foundation of faith can work much the same. And sometimes it takes time. And we have to learn to take our time and to not be in a hurry while laying and or maintaining that foundation. I remember back when I first discovered spiritual teachings and tools. I wanted to grab anything I could find. I'd learned this new magnificent thing. I was like starting to gather books, researching articles online, listening to different speakers, anything I could get my hands on. I felt like I just needed more, like I couldn't get enough. And while there was nothing wrong with that, I also found that I wanted it now. I wanted this spiritual evolution to happen right now. I wanted all of these teachings to just sink in at that very moment to be what I perceived as a spiritual guru of sorts. I read and I studied people. I studied the wisdom of people like Dr. Wayne Dyer, one of my favorites. And I wanted all of his wisdom, all of his spiritual wisdom right that second. And I'm not saying it can't happen instantaneously for some, because there might be some of you listening in today where, it just basically happened overnight. You're the spiritual guru, and I want to talk to you, so call me after. But for myself, it didn't quite happen that way. I've had to learn to take my time and to not be in a hurry with it, and it's still happening even as I stand here before you today. Now, Charles Fillmore continues to talk about faith, and he mentions demonstration and how we can demonstrate this wonderful foundation of faith. And he talks about 3 steps to this demonstration. 1, the recognition of truth and principle. 2, holding the idea. And 3, acknowledging that it has been fulfilled. So to recognize truth, what do we do to recognize truth? We use our spiritual tools of prayer and meditation. And when we do this, when we use these spiritual tools, we open our consciousness. We open our consciousness to be able to enable ourselves to see that in which we want to manifest, that in which we want to bring forth through faith what it is we want to see or see more of in our lives. Next, we hold this idea of what we want to see. We know what it is we want, and we see it, we envision it, and we decide that we are going to accept nothing less. In fact, why would we even be willing to entertain the notion of accepting anything less? We're these spiritual beings. We are these essences of God. Why would we accept anything less? It goes back to the old saying, which you've probably heard before, with God, all things are possible. This is what we know and what we affirm and what we accept to be true. And we acknowledge. These things we want to see manifest in our lives aren't just kind of floating around, just kind of up above somewhere that we can't reach. Kind of like a balloon with helium, that sometimes just floats a little out of your reach and you can't quite grab it. Those things we want to see manifest aren't like that. There are limitless, endless possibilities all around us right now, right in front of us. And they are all within reach. All we have to do is to be willing to see this and to know that we can reach out and grab them at any time we choose. We aren't saying, thank you, God, for answering my prayer that I will one day have enough. No, we're not saying it like that. We aren't affirming for some future time and some future date out there somewhere. We are affirming this to be true right here and right now because we know this is true. We're saying, I am enough. Thank you, God. Because it is right here and right now. And when we pray in faith, we are acknowledging that truth. Sometimes it takes time to lay our foundations on this spiritual journey, but that's okay. In the words of my father, words that he still uses today, take your time. There's no need to be in a hurry. Now, another quote by another father is that of author and presidential advisor Booker T. Washington, when he said, if you want to lift yourself up, lift up someone else. So back to Charles Fillmore, he tells us that in pure metaphysics, there is but one word, the Word of God. Now, I'm not sure that there's any of us in this room or listening today that don't understand the power of words. Because words can tear down or they can build up. People may forget your actions and the actions of others, but they will never likely forget your words, whether perceived as negative or positive. Now, I believe that Mr. Fillmore in his book was probably mostly referring to the words that we use to manifest what it is we idealize, but let's think about words more when we're talking about uplifting others around us. Mr. Fillmore talks about our thoughts and how they produce this temporary vibration, meaning that the universe is out there listening, and when we use our words, this vibration, the universe begins to respond to this vibration, and things begin to take shape. They begin to start to manifest. If we give them enough attention, they only increase this vibration, and before long, our thoughts become things. And let's take it a step further and let's think about words. Mr. Fillmore tells us that if we are conformed to the divine law, our words would make things instantly. Yes, we are that powerful to where our words can make things manifest instantly. And let's think about this for a moment. The power of our words can instantly bring something forth. I'm not saying that we can say, and this is just, anybody that's probably heard me talk before knows that I covet a 1965 Mustang. So I'm not saying that I can have that 1965 Mustang in the driveway right now and poof, I run out and it's in the driveway. I wish I could do that. I wish it was that easy. You'd see it out in the parking lot today. But anyway, what I'm talking about here today is how our words can affect others. And how, through our words, we can make it so. Now, I've used this in a little bit of an example before, but I want to bring it back up again because it's so important. Let's take a child, for instance. What do you think is going to happen if you tell him or her, that artwork you're doing right there, that art is just terrible. You're no good at it, and you're never going to be able to call yourself an artist. What do you think is going to happen? That child is going to likely pack up their art supplies and put them back up on a shelf somewhere where they'll do nothing but gather dust. That change took place in the instant those words were spoken. But what about, on the other hand, we tell the child, wow, your art is wonderful. You are so good at this. You are an artist. That child will likely remember those words. And in that instant, with those words, may decide to become the most creative person to ever walk this planet. And it's not just children. It applies to adults here as well, right? It applies to all of us. And each and every time we tear someone else down or build someone else up with our words, we are doing the same thing to ourselves. We're all essences of God. What we do to each other, we do to ourselves. What we do to ourselves, we do to each other. Mr. Fillmore tells us that the words of Jesus were given to common people, according to the world's standard, by a carpenter in the remote corner of the earth. Yet these words have moved people for more than 1900 years to realize, to dare, and to do as no other words that were ever uttered. So we know that each and every person is a being, an essence of God. We are all connected. We are all a part of each other. The good thing with words is that we have the choice to pause for a moment, right? We have the choice to pause for a moment to think about what we're going to say. Or especially, this even applies when we are writing things. We have a moment to pause about what we're going to write, because our writing are words. It becomes crucial to pause for a moment to ask ourselves the intent of our words and whether or not we are in alignment with Spirit. Booker T. Washington said, if you want to lift up, or if you want to lift yourself up, lift up someone else first. Now, another fatherly quote I wanted to mention today is one by writer Clarence Buddington Kelland. He once said, "My father didn't tell me how to live. He lived and let me watch him do it." So I remember hearing the words sometimes as a child from different people, "Do as I say, not as I do." And this can be a little difficult and conflicting advice, especially as a child. Especially if you maybe witness a parent smoke and they tell you, well, smoking's bad for your health, don't do it. Or your big brother tells you, you shouldn't be bullying people, yet you watch him bully the kid in the second grade. So really the words would probably be more applicable if they were, do as I do. But in this instance, it goes beyond words, because in reality, we can lead by example. We can allow others to watch us do it. I know that right now it can seem a bit cloudy, can it? Especially in a climate where watching the actions of others isn't always the best example. We've got Twitter and other such platforms, and we're like, whoa, that person's supposed to be a leader. What in the heck is happening? However, we don't have to be world leaders or politicians or reality TV stars to set our example. We don't even have to leave the house. Especially in these times of COVID. We can do it right here, right now, in our homes, wherever we are. We can live and we can let others watch us do it. We can live our spiritual principles, and when we do, not only do others watch, we also begin to raise the consciousness, allowing others to even start to feel what it is that we're doing. They'll begin to feel it too. Now, Mr. Fillmore also talks about both love and forgiveness in his book. And these two things are, in my opinion, wonderful things that we can live and practice and even allow others to witness. Mr. Fillmore said, "Love is the power that joins and binds in divine harmony, the universe and everything in it." So it sounds to me like things could slightly become just unraveled a little bit when we don't practice the power of love. He goes on to say, we connect our soul force with whatever we center our love upon. So is there any greater gift? I want to ask today, is there any greater gift that we can give than the gift of love? The gift of giving love. The gift of showing up as love. or even the gift of being love. And what happens when we demonstrate these things? I think a lot of the disagreements that we're seeing right now in social media and even out in person probably is because in that moment of anger, that moment of wanting to be right, we tend to forget that we are love. That the people we're talking with are love. And when we forget, we tend to react in ways that throw us into this false sense of separation. And I do it. I stand here today and say that I do it sometimes too. I'm guilty of that as well. But when we forget, it feeds into this collective consciousness of those around us or those that are interacting with us. And then they tend to forget as well. And before we know it, we've got this domino effect and everybody's starting to forget. Everybody's starting to believe in this false sense of separation. But telling others to love isn't enough. We can say it all day till we're blue in the face. And if it was enough to just tell people, we wouldn't likely be seeing these things that we're seeing in the world right now. There wouldn't be a reason for us to have to defend the lives of those who are currently so often being treated as less than the wonderful spiritual beings that they are. Telling isn't enough. We must show love, and by that, we begin to learn and we begin to also help others learn, to learn their truth. We begin to help close this gap of this false sense of separation and to live as the authentic love and to demonstrate this authentic love of who it is that we are. In forgiveness, Mr. Fillmore also spoke about forgiveness. Something else that is wonderful to demonstrate through our actions. Now, one special congregant that I've spoken with here at the Unity of Madison has often shared with me just what the power of forgiveness has done in her own life. And how through its demonstration has also touched the lives of those around her. Now, Mr. Fillmore tells us that forgiveness is a process of giving up the false for the true. Erasing sin and error from the mind and body. So it's a giving up of these false beliefs that we've so often held and maybe perhaps continue to hold on to. Maybe the thought that this person is good and this person is bad. Now, I'm not saying that forgiveness is allowing ourselves to be hurt over and over by those who choose to hurt us. That's not something that I suggest anyone continue to do. However, again, as Mr. Fillmore quotes, forgiveness is established by renewing of the mind and body with thought and words of truth. So we can begin to forgive when we realize that there is only good, that anything else is but an illusion. There are times when ourselves, we tend to feel like we've lost our way. Or we see others and we feel like maybe they've lost their way. There are times when others have hurt us and when we have also hurt other people. But we have the choice to take control. We have the choice to take dominion over our thoughts, or we have the choice to remain with the hurt, to stay stuck in our stories, right? To allow it to take over our thoughts and the quality in which we choose to live this human experience. Forgiveness isn't even at all about the other person. Forgiveness is about us. Heck, half the time this person that we're withholding forgiveness from is probably just out living their life, not even knowing that we're withholding forgiveness in the first place. And not forgiving can also create a blockage in both mind and body, right? That blockage can block joy, love, peace, and prevent us from moving forward on our spiritual journey. And when we demonstrate forgiveness, we remove this blockage. And we demonstrate how to begin to live our lives in this whole new way, a more spiritual way, a way that aligns with our beliefs, our spiritual tools, and it sets us further along the spiritual journey that we're on. So you see, no one really has to tell us how to live. We just need to live and to let others watch us do it. So there are many, many quotes from fathers out there. Again, some advice is good, and some maybe we'd rather just leave behind and forget that we ever even heard it. My own father, again, he often offers advice that I never asked for, and admittedly at times I have found it annoying. And he doesn't know this, but he probably will today if he's tuning in. But there are plenty of times that I have listened, whether he's ever really known it or not. The thing is, he's never claimed to be perfect. He's only ever claimed to be living his human experience and doing the best that he can at any given moment. He's also told me regarding his advice to take it or to leave it. So whichever I choose, I also choose to listen, even if he knows it or not. I choose to think about what it means for me and how it can help me on this spiritual journey. So I pause today and I listen to the words. I listen to the words from fathers past and from fathers today. And again, I wish you all a very happy Father's Day. Namaste. And now I would like to invite our board president, Steve Roberts, up. He's going to talk about the board meeting we had last week. Take it away.
Thank you. Good morning. First thing today, I'd like to announce that our board vice president, Dwight Tell, has needed to step down from serving on the board. Dwight brought a great perspective to the board, and we would like to thank him for the many contributions he's made over the past year and a half. I am going to miss serving with him. Elaine Stebleton has graciously offered to step into the vice president's role in his stead. And the vacancy among the trustees created by his stepping down has been filled by Nancy Sundahl. She was our alternate, and she's now a full voting trustee, and she will serve out Dwight's term. Part of our meeting was devoted to discussing the policy for wearing masks in the sanctuary. Reverend Evin has established protocols for Sunday morning worship, which follow CDC guidelines. And we were all in agreement that until infection and hospitalization rates decline more, we'll need to continue with the current rules in place. One of the things that the board is interested in right now is generating income to keep our community in good working order throughout the second half of the year. We're still in good financial condition right now, and we're very thankful for the generosity of this community, for the ongoing giving that we've seen during the pandemic. But we are also want to ensure that we remain financially healthy for the second half of this year. And so we're looking at different alternate sources of income. One great avenue to supplement Sunday offering is the Vanco online service that we utilize. If you haven't already done so, you should take a look at it. You can find it by clicking on the donate button on our website. And we're also asking online groups that are meeting through Zoom to consider taking a love offering in lieu of the contribution that they would normally make in the building. About a month ago, we had a board training with Reverend Charlene Manuel. She's a Unity pastor and author from Florida, and we did a Zoom training session with her. I thought she did a very good job. We discussed the commitments that are implicit in serving as a trustee, what the legal obligations of trustees are, and we talked about ongoing development of the board as a working group. We met again this last week on Zoom. We are hoping to be able to resume in-person meetings soon, but until the pandemic slows down, we'll continue to meet as all other groups in this church are doing online. Thank you.
I could try to talk with my mask on, but that might just sound kind of weird. I don't know. So while you're preparing your tithes and your offerings today, I just remind you to continue to check our calendar for our events. Most of our Zoom links will be on there. And some groups may begin to start kind of doing hybrids, some half on person, half on Zoom. But as groups start meeting together again in person, we'll make sure that we announce that in the e-blast. So continue to watch your Thursday e-blast. And if you don't get that for whatever reason, I highly encourage you to sign up. Just go to our website. If you need assistance with that, email me and let me know, and I'll help you with that. I also would like to remind you, Josie mentioned our prayer here in our service today, but I would like to also remind you that Silent Unity is standing by 24/7 to offer prayer wherever you are. So please utilize them. They have been a wonderful, wonderful resource for many years. So I invite you now to please take your tithes and offerings in your hand or to place them over your heart as we say together our offertory blessing. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God. And just please note, we won't be passing around the offering baskets today. You'll find it on the door on your way out, so just place it in the basket on your way out. If you haven't been back on a Sunday, we're just requesting everyone to leave through this door. So make sure you leave through that. Be careful because there is a step down as you go through that door. We don't have an official hospitality. However, you are welcome to bring drinks and food from home and to gather out on the lawn between services. I don't think everybody wears masks out there, but just make sure you maintain your physical distancing while on the lawn. So you're welcome to have that kind of hospitality. And now I guess, okay, now we'll go into I'm So Blessed.